This is the Real Mom Hub.
Keep listening for relatable content.
How about this lighting? Pretty
Yeah,
good?
we sure, yep.
There's some technical difficulties.
We here.
Okay, so we're here with our mother.
Yeah,
Emily
the
normally,
OG mom.
the OG, yep. And Emily normally writes a really bomb intro. Then we realized we couldn't write you an intro because it would have taken like the rest of our life. So Kyle and Kevin wrote your intro.
Is
And
that what Charlie was helping with earlier?
yep. And we have not read it yet. And Kevin told
Okay.
me I had to read it like an announcer.
We might want Kevin's voice announcing it.
That's what I said.
I mean,
Emily said it was too many people.
I felt like we were going to give them their own episode first.
Yeah, she wanted to give them a grand entrance. Okay, so we ready?
Oh, yeah.
Anne O'Leary. Oh, wait. Okay. I'm going to read it just like he wrote it. Appearing for the first time on the Real Mom Hub, we have the kindest person you'll meet, selfless beyond measure. Oh, these are really nice. She's the first one awake and the last to go to bed. Mother of four who has only said damn it once in her life. Provider of pillow presents. Truth seeker with DAT, capital T, with a spirit full of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. She is wise, insightful, warm, and sincere with a master's degree to back it. She kept them in line for 18 years, them meaning us, I'm guessing. Tamer of marks, the maker of all things, the woman with 8 names. We'll have to get clarification on your 8 names. Presenting the inspiration of it all, we have Be Your Best Self, Anne O'Leary.
After that, Kev, I will try hard to be my best self on this podcast
And make wise choices.
and make wise choices.
Wait, I just realized. So for those of you who are new to Anne O'Leary, which is probably most of all of you, every time we left the house, we would hear "Be your best self, make wise choices." To the extent that all of our friends knew this catchphrase, like in college, my roommates, when I no longer lived at home, we would often yell to each other, okay, be your best self, make wise choices. It's been shortened over the years to be your best self. Do you think the boys know the second part?
Oh.
Because it's just been like implicit for
Next
years
time
now.
they try to climb mom's favorite oak tree, her favorite baby oak, we'll pull out the second part.
That only happened exactly one time.
Never
and we don't
again.
even need to say who tried to climb it. They are quick studies. It's fine.
So you are talking to a fresh generation of budding matriarchs. What is one trait of womanhood that you hope we cherish?
I hope you cherish receptivity, receiving babies, receiving people home, receiving new ideas.
I'm taking it all in.
You're receiving it well. That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm just sitting with your response too. Why do you think that was top of mind for you?
I think it's an essential quality of the feminine genius, of womanhood, that we are designed to receive. I think it's just part of who we are, uniquely. And Emily
What is
cannot
wrong
handle
with you?
I just went all
Way to
Nat
ruin
Geo,
the moment.
and I was like back to hieroglyphics of like the womb is a vessel.
Yes, I mean, she's not wrong.
That was such a beautiful thought, and I'm sorry I wrecked it.
We should have left it at the. What a great question. Thank you. Here's the next one.
A theme in my marriage right now is I think there's just so much going on. We're a little overwhelmed. We're in a new season. We're not always receiving each other's words at a most basic level. And so I was just wondering if you're in a season, Mom, where you're focusing on receiving more, if you feel like you're a master receiver.
Am I in a particularly receptive season? Yes, in that there's more quiet in my life. Okay, for sure. I can process. I can be, I think, more open because it's a quieter season overall. Yeah. But I think it's a reality all the time for women. Well, I think at some point John Paul II said something to that effect in his writings on feminine genius, and he wasn't wrong. But you'd have to look that up and put it in the show notes.
Ooh, love
She
a
says,
fact
"Ah,
check moment.
joke's on you." You gotta
Yeah.
go look up JP2 now.
He's a pope for those who are confused.
A dead one, so now he's a saint.
Wait, so mom, when
Okay, you're
we've
still going. All right.
when we've received all these things, like okay, we've received and received and we're receiving and what do you do with it when you have it? Because it's not
Sometimes
like you're always
nothing.
receiving nice things. What?
Sometimes you just receive and sit with whatever it is. Sometimes you make a connection that helps you see what someone needs or what to do next. Or sometimes you reflect back what you received because someone needs to see it but can't see it in themselves. I mean, babies, you receive them, you take care of them. That's what the Real Mom Hub is about right now, right? What you receive. The other moms you're building into this community wherever they're at. Sometimes you respond. Sometimes it's enough just to receive.
When you and dad came home from Ethiopia,
Mm.
he was outlining some of the wisdom you learned when you were there. And I don't know what the exact I have to learn someday what the exact phrase is, but it's something to the effect of at a certain point in your life you learn to swallow your spit,
Yeah,
which
that's
is something that I specifically could learn how to do at all.
it is an Ethiopian like proverb, wise saying, and it took us a while. Still unpacking. Thanks for bringing it back around. Even our host Abebe couldn't give us a clear explanation because it's just something Ethiopians understand. But yes, when we're making wise choices and practicing getting wiser, you less often, I think, have to put your point forward. Or, yeah, we even took it to the extreme, like frothing at the mouth with your opinion or your response. No longer so much the thing.
Oof. That's usually the thing for me. So
So maybe you'll
sometimes we
have,
receive and do nothing, is the moral of that.
yeah, but
So
maybe you'll
then
have an Ethiopian listener who can add some comments to the show box and help us understand the spit swallowing better.
I want to know because I'm just thinking, like, all right, I'm here. I've received something really difficult. I'm looking for resolution or at least something constructive. And I'm just supposed to sit there and swallow my spit. I mean, how hard is that?
Really hard.
Depends on the thing and the you.
Okay, wait, I have a question. So I think Mark O'Leary, your husband, our dad, his daughters often have a hard time swallowing their spit. But I don't know that his wife's always had that problem. It seems as I've been sentient enough to watch your evolution, you've actually started spitting more as you've gotten
Mm-hmm.
older.
But subtle.
Subtle, yeah,
It's
very
just like a
intentional.
little mist.
Okay, we could find a new analogy.
We
That'd be
could.
fine. That'd be really okay. Maybe this has run its course. So, was that evolution intentional, mom? Because I'm trying to hold both. Like you're in different seasons. I think, especially when you're raising babies and you have so much chaos in your life, it's really difficult to just sit there and receive and just soak it in and then figure out what to do with it. You don't always have the time or the capacity to do that. So that's on the one hand. And then on the other, as you get older, yeah, maybe you have more capacity to do that and be intentional and thoughtful. But you, as you've gotten older, I think have also acted more potentially.
Yes. I think you're right. And part of that, I wouldn't say intentional in that I intended to evolve to this point because no, I don't know that we ever intend to evolve, right? But you're right. It is an evolving, and part of it's just being more confident and comfortable stating my needs or stating an opinion. And I think that's just personal growth and healing and maturity apart from season of life. I don't think it directly correlates to busy baby young kid season versus later season. I think it's just personal journey.
So you talk about just gaining confidence in your womanhood journey. What, I guess, early on, And or what now makes you feel empowered as a woman?
Well, for me, my faith is empowering, like really trusting in being known and seen and loved by God, as much in this moment as in my spitting moments or my yelling at broskies climbing my oak tree moments. Yeah, but I think so. I think the deeper and more integrated my faith is, that is hugely empowering to me to not be as concerned about responses on a human level only. Maybe.
Mm.
What else is empowering? It's super empowering to watch the four of you grow into women and fledge and flourish and be pursued by and love good men. And so that's a super empowering seasonal change for me. It's very fun, very exciting to watch you struggle. That's not fun. Um, that's not fun at all. But that's when we swallow our spit over here for sure. You've had some struggles, each of you, in your, yeah, we have to, right? Necessary struggles to become independent adult humans. But it's been empowering to watch you come through your struggles with your ideals in place and your focus honed, I think. But also so much joy and so much success and so much resiliency, I think, too, in saying, well, I did that. That was good, but I need to do something different.
Or it wasn't. Or it wasn't.
Or that was not so good.
That was really dumb.
That was
not
actually absolute crap. Thank you.
not my best self in that moment, maybe, right?
Let's never do that again.
Oh, right. So I'd say that is quite empowering. Being loved by your dad, empowering, out of my control, right? Not something that I caused, but something that I received. There you go.
Do you think
Yeah.
that's
And then
true?
what's that?
Not something that you cause, just something that you receive. Like when it's true, good, honorable love, like, yes, I don't think we can truly explain that. There's no formula, there's no recipe for success there. But you've got to be a large part of like your choices every single day to be the kind of person that you are has got to influence him.
Yes. Moment to moment, I can encourage and support him. I can make choices that support our marriage and help our marriage flourish for sure. But nothing I do or fail to do could change his love for me. So that's why I say the the love isn't something pause or I'm responsible for.
Do you
Ooh.
remember when I was a kid? Like,
Yes.
I went through this. I went through this phase, and I'm sure all kids do, but of asking you who you love more, us or dad.
I do not remember that phase,
I
Callie.
did the other day because I was looking at Charlie and I was like, I asked that of my mother. And if he ever said that to me, like, I remember you just said, I love you differently. And we moved on. But now, like, having children, what was I thinking?
What house? Do you remember? Do you remember where we were?
Woodstock.
Oh, okay. So not a toddler.
No, old enough to like understand that's like not a thing that you can answer. Like not that you love
Mhm.
one person more. Obviously, it's just different. But
Yeah.
Wait, Mom, do you remember when you started roasting us? You just hardcore, like, you're so subtle with your roasting, but you 100% make fun of it. Like, when did that
Oh, yeah.
start?
I don't know.
or did she always do it and we just were
We
too
just
little?
didn't know.
You just
Just
grew into it.
roast. Oh, which house? When you were 6 months old and I was roasting you? Or
Oh, so you weren't a toddler, though, were you?
oh,
Just clarifying. But then I also wonder, Callie, what was going on like in your friends' lives. So if you were older than a toddler,
mm,
what were you seeing happening in your world
mm. I don't remember that at all.
that made
I
you
just
question? Yeah. And also that is something I had to actually learn from dad, that it was
What?
necessary for me to put our marriage before my love for you, for our children. And I didn't understand that because I didn't live with a married mom and dad in that for you listeners, my dad had passed away when I was very young, and my mom was super resilient, and you'll hear her interview later. But she just took care of things and she got things done and she made things happen. But I didn't witness the give and take or the support or sacrifice of a marriage, and had to really learn that it was okay to put that ahead of sometimes what seemed like the children's very urgent needs. So that was an active learning process. I'm glad I gave a good answer, Callie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't even know why I remember it because I remember just being confused about the whole thing, but not like traumatized or anything. But it just came to me the other day. And then I was traumatized the
I'm
second time around.
traumatized.
But that's like, even with sleep training, I did not want to sleep train. But even the second
Mm.
time around, like Kevin and I, are having struggles and things aren't the way that we want in our marriage. And he's like, we're not sleeping. Like, we have to get these kids to sleep. And
Mhm.
I'm the stubborn one. And then 2 nights and felt like immediately, which I'm sure it wasn't, but like one good night of sleep and we were 100 times better. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. And then the whole family's better.
And we know now that like there are studies showing that when the parents value their relationship over the kids feel more secure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like all these studies coming out with parents trying to be like, millennial parenting, trying to be their kids' friends. We're finding out now what a bad idea that was. You and dad never tried that. That was great.
Now I
Sure
feel
didn't.
like now I feel like we can hang out as friends, and that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I say that to so many people. Like, I'll take it way back to the beginning of this conversation where you were talking about letting us struggle and feeling empowered when you saw us overcome struggle.
Mm.
I've never considered that before. That when we have our life together and we're able to learn and triumph, it's a triumph for you. I've always kind of wondered, well, how do they just stay out of it? Because as adult parents, I think, well, and you've been exceptional parents at all stages, but I think it's rare that my friends have the kind of relationship that we all,
Mm.
in our own individual ways, seem to have with you and dad. It's really cool.
We love it. And Dad was always a good help in letting you all struggle. Sometimes maybe a catalyst to struggle. Like for sure I would have said, "Oh, but she was up really late hearing about her friend's breakup. And do you remember how hard this school week was for her? Maybe she doesn't need to get up early this morning and do Saturday morning chores."
Oh.
And Dad understood that all the more so if you were facing a big audition or a big thing, you needed to know that you could get up and do stuff. You
Oh,
could still do the
like the
things.
time that he decided it was my turn to learn how to drive stick shift on a 4-hour drive to my college violin audition.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm sorry. Did you just take that out of my life? Did you
Same thing
just,
happened to you.
did I never tell you this before?
You played violin too.
No, I was on the way to a flute.
Roasted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on the way to a flute lesson with this prof that I really wanted to study with in Chicago.
Oh, I was gonna say
And
half hour, 4 hours. Okay. Oh,
that
yeah.
man, we were in rush hour traffic on the highway, the 4-lane highway in Chicago, bumper to bumper. Like we were at a standstill and he got out of the car. He was driving and he got out of the car. And I just sat in the car and wouldn't get out until the semis started honking at us.
So our thankfully I think he had more pity on me. You got the worst one.
Yeah, he was
But we
probably like,
were
"Oh, it worked so well with Emily. I'm going to do it again
yeah,
for
let's do it again.
Callie."
Because I remember he pulled up to school and he was in the passenger seat. And I was like, Dad, like we have to get to Iowa. Wait, yeah, Minnesota? Minnesota.
Minnesota.
It was St. Olaf.
Yep.
Yeah, we have to get to Minnesota. And I'm driving a stick. Like we have 5 hours until this audition and it's a 4-hour drive. But we stopped for lunch and we came back out and someone had taken one of the paper placemats and scrawled nice park job asshole and shoved it in the door handle and Dad drove the rest of the way. And here we are today. Neither you or I went to those schools that we auditioned for, but
Wait, I have a question. This is tangential, and then we can go back to what we were talking about. This happened literally 2 days ago. So I feel like I need to give a little context here and tell the audience about how I learned how to ride a bike. I was late. I was a late bloomer on the two-wheeler
okay.
front. But, the thing is that, like, some people might think that was sincere. That was insincere for those listening. So I have this two-wheeler. It's a hand-me-down from someone or other, whatever. I've got this bike. And my dad tells me there's no such thing as training wheels, which is really awkward for me to receive as an 8-year-old when all of the neighbor kids have training wheels. I'm like, oh, so you think I'm dumb? Cool. Anyways, so what would happen? This is how Dad tried to teach me how to ride a bike. He'd plop me on the seat, and then he would hold the seat up behind me and run. He would start running, and then he would launch me. So I'm on this bike trying to just not fall off. And can I just say, I actually couldn't have cared less to ride a bike. Like, it was 100% societal pressure from my dad that, developmentally, Emily's got to learn how to ride a bike.
You were 8, in all fairness.
Yeah, but I literally, for some reason, didn't care about it. Like, I
And I think
couldn't
this
have
started
cared
when
less.
she was, I think it started when she was 6.5 or 7. It was
Could be.
It was a long burn. Okay.
Long.
So I just had a narrative shift on this story, and I need you to check me. So anyways, this has all been happening, and I'm just like, it's kind of like a battle of wills. Like, if I really try and I really want something, I usually get it. I clearly just didn't care to whatever.
Mhm.
Battle of wills between
It's
Mark and
not
Emily.
that she's not athletic or anything. It couldn't be that.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not athletic. Anyways, my sweet sister also gets a hand-me-down bike, and she's like 2. That's not true.
4.
If I was 8, you were 4.
Yeah.
Literally just like gets on the thing and starts riding off into the
In a
sunset.
in a fairy
Into the sunset.
costume.
In a
Is
fairy
what I
costume.
remember.
That's cute.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this has been a sister narrative that I've held with you. And really, I love it because I'm like, it's so indicative of Callie. She just cuts through the BS, like all of the mental gymnastics that I put myself through that are wholly unproductive and just like the opposite of helpful. She just like sees the thing and is like, okay, get over it. Yeah, I'm going to go do it. It's great. It's beautiful. Like, I love to celebrate you with this story. So anyways, I'm out on a walk with my husband and my sweet baby 2 days ago. And I see it's like all of the little 5-year-olds are trying to learn how to ride their two-wheelers. Like, I just see all these little kids just zipping past. And on the third one, I'm looking at him and I was like, wait, his feet are flat on the ground. How come his feet touch on this two-wheeler? His feet can touch the ground while he's riding. Like, if he's gonna fall over, he can just put his feet down. And then I was like, my feet never touched the ground ever on this two-wheeler.
I would like to say,
is that true, or am I making that up?
I'm sure it was true. And on this journey that you just had, I need, in everybody's defense, to say that the balance bike is what you were seeing, and it's the way that people learn how to ride bikes now. And they were not.
Bike?
It's what you saw when you're like close to the ground, so you can put your feet down, but they weren't around when we learned. So training wheels
like
were
a normal. It looks like a normal
check.
Normal two-wheeler.
Yeah,
but like, I remember Emily Pegarsh, her feet were on the ground, whether there were training wheels or not. Like, she could touch the ground with her feet. So could you on yours. It never occurred to me, like, oh, that was a problem. If I, like, literally, I remember if I wasn't on the seat, if I fell off the seat, the bar was so high, it would like jam my crotch because my feet wouldn't touch. So there was a real problem.
Hazard. You could have died.
Literally. Anyways,
we'll have to dig up some photos.
I need photo evidence.
Do some measurements. Yeah. cannot vouch for the size of that bike, just the length of time it took you to decide to ride it. And you're right. You just hadn't decided.
All right. So, Mom, as the matriarch of the family, when you consider the word matriarch, what thoughts or feelings come to mind? It's a bit of a controversial word.
It is. It is a word with lots of layers that we hold in tension, right? So I, interestingly, don't think of myself as a matriarch.
Really?
Really?
Why not?
I don't know, just hasn't, not a word I've applied to self-reflective identity. No, matriarch. Oh, in the best of sense, gathering, nurturing, guiding. In the worst of sense, bossy and belligerent. So controlling. Um, so like all things human, there's a balance and we have to make wise choices.
We didn't actually need this whole episode. We could just say be your best selves.
Make wise
Make
choices.
wise choices.
Don't climb baby oak trees.
Don't. Yeah, we should clarify that. It was not a full grown oak tree. That would have been fine.
Mom was protecting the baby.
And just ride the bike. There it is.
To sum it all up. But so I hear you on the controlling, like that can be a really unattractive trait
damaging,
of
bad.
yeah, we could keep assigning negatives to it for sure. Did you have some? Yeah, no, and there are many ways I think that women have had to do that. If we look back at the many generations of women who did not have true rights or like socially, legally, otherwise, I mean, it's ingrained in us. So I understand why that could be part of the definition or the association. But I would say also we can remove the word control, but influence this family so much. Like I would say for you and dad, when there are certain family gatherings or certain things that have to be done, like one of you, just like one word from either of you, and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, totally. Like I don't think that's normal in 2024 for a lot of families of adult children.
I think we should also clarify it's like one word from one of them, and then one of the four of us will be the one that's like, oh, like someone will read dad and be like, hey, alert. Or someone will read mom and be like, hey, alert.
Yeah, true.
This
But
is
there's
a
a
thing of importance. Yeah.
collective response of, oh, the matriarch or the patriarch has spoken.
So that's the important thing I think that you and I have talked about is can you hold patriarch and matriarch together?
I just did.
Well, and that's what we always come to, but like, can you actually? I feel like that's what people get stuck on is can you have both? And would you consider grandma a matriarch in a positive way when she was like she had to be, right? Like I wonder if that shifts the word at all.
What do you mean when she had to be?
When grandpa died, right? Like when she was a single mom
Oh,
Yeah.
for years,
the
Yeah.
single mom is the matriarch. I see.
Yeah.
right? Like that's a different kind of matriarch than when there's also a patriarch.
Well, and you're just getting down to the actual, like if you were to look at the dictionary and you would say, okay, like matriarch, the
Yeah.
leader, they're not in tandem ever. It's either the patriarch or the matriarch in terms of how
Right,
we
that's the
view
hard part
society.
with that word in my brain is
Got it.
yeah, is how do you balance both things because is that possible black and white definition wise
Well, that I think is what we're striving towards in 2024 in the privileged place that we live.
of having both those things be true?
Of living in America, where, yeah, the modern day and age. We were talking about this, Kelly, where roles in terms of breadwinner.
I'm leaving that in. I need you to know.
Yes.
Not coming out.
It's past my bedtime. No.
That is a keeper. Uh-huh.
Thanks everyone. Wait, no, I really want to talk about this because
Also, you should provide Kleenex for your guests. Just saying.
I know. I'm like gonna use my shirts.
well, not everyone has the genetic tendency to just cry as we laugh every time.
But there's an emoji, so it's more than just us.
True, it's so
True.
true.
There's
It
money.
usually takes a lot more for other people, I think. Okay,
Okay, back to the
people,
bread
in
winner.
a spouse, someone's in charge for bringing economic value to the family, and others have been more focused on the house and the raising of the babies. Like you and dad had, I would say, very
Mhm.
separate roles during the day compared to many couples now where there's more shared duty. So how did that happen with you and dad? Did you talk about that before you
So
had kids?
interesting. in anticipating today's podcast time, I was thinking about that and I just knew. Like, I remember, I don't remember a lot talking with dad about that. So I should ask him if we talked about it. I just remember knowing that I needed to be primarily available to my children. Not that it was thinking about looking around in my life. It's not like I was reading, or Lord knows I wasn't scrolling Instagram
Right.
to see what kind of married woman or mom I wanted to be. That was not a thing. And grandma had various seasons of employment outside the home and not, and we were among the first among our friends to have kids. Yeah, I don't know. I just knew maybe dad would remind me that we had conversations and that he had a preference that I would be home more than away. Yeah, I don't know.
Did you know when you were pregnant or when we came out or like before we were even a thought?
I don't remember. I would say when we discovered we were pregnant with Emily, which was a great moment of joy and astonishment because of choices we had made, for dad to quit his full time job and go back to grad school. Uh,
Ooh.
and then discovering that, in fact, we already were pregnant. Planning forward from that was planning around like part time work and balance with being at home.
And I don't know, like, I think we just asked the matriarch question because it's sort of a hot topic right now. It just feels very relevant. But I don't know if anybody really knows. Like, nobody's had a definitive answer of what matriarch means to me, or, we talk about the patriarch a lot
The
right now.
patriarchy,
Patriarchy, yes, thank you.
because we all
And so
live
I
in
think,
one.
right, that's why we do want to dive into the idea of matriarch, but can you have a negative connotation of one and not the other? And it's a very complicated topic that I definitely have not figured out yet.
Well, like when we were asking mom, it's just kind of out of the blue. What do you think of this word? And
Mm.
now, most of the time when I hear it bandied about, it's in the political sense. And you're right, Callie, it is an answering call to the patriarchy. There, like in liberal circles, there's so much F the patriarchy. What's the opposite of patriarchy? Oh, matriarchy. When we do all have to get along and balance each other and make each other better.
Yeah. So I feel like you and I would both say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we both did grow up. Even my black and white brain can say I grew up with a matriarch and a patriarch. Like, I just
Yeah,
believe that to be true, which is
agreed.
interesting that after mom, you say your definition. I'm like, well, I didn't grow up with that, right? Like, I grew up with my own version of that word, but
Very positive associations for me too, because I think we knew grandma's story, and mom, to your point about the women in your life that you were taking notes from, grandma worked a lot from what I understand as a single mom to make sure you and Uncle Bill, I mean, she was on one hand working as a nurse often and also hand making you Halloween costumes and waking up at midnight to bake cookies for school functions. And I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
how she did all that. So that's a very matriarch move. And then on dad's side, Baba's such a force in
very different kind
tandem.
of matriarch.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
tandem with grandpa though. Like you would never
Hmm.
Yeah.
say, "Oh, we come from like that was a patriarchal family."
Right.
They are both chiefs.
Yes.
Sure
Yes.
are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess growing up, the women were always bosses in our
Yeah.
And
family.
yeah.
So, Mom, you touched on it a little bit, but how does your experience now as a woman compare to what you thought as maybe a younger girl or even in college? What did you see womanhood to be, or motherhood, if that was what you always knew it would look like? How did those things compare?
Huh. So, never would have dreamed of where I am sitting now, the life I'm experiencing now, the things I'm challenged with or enjoying. I mean, the basics, to be happily married, have healthy kids who are thriving, to have a house, maybe a dog. I didn't really think about dogs, but I mean, the
Don't
general,
listen, Roxy.
sorry, rocks. I mean, she's great. I mean, the general basic pieces, of course, are there. Yeah, I'm realizing that maybe I don't even need to define or reflect on it, but I don't vision in concrete ways. So that is a great question because I can't say that I, in my 20s, a clear or specific set of expectations or dreams even. Yeah, I think I vision and anticipate or dream on more of a gut core level. And it's, yeah, I don't,
That actually surprises me.
Yeah, what do you mean by that,
yeah,
Mom?
I don't know. But I also can say that I didn't, when I was 20 something, have a specific dream or goal that I can compare to right now when you ask the question that way. I think at a core, like gut level, expected to, hoped to grow in relationships, have good friendships, marriage, family, interesting, creative, challenging things to do, but not in a really defined way. I don't know. Dad and I've had this conversation a couple times recently. He is more clear or remembers kind of what his dreams were as a younger adult or young person. And I just can't say that I can compare this to what I thought my life might be in my late 50s, because FYI, I'm in my late 50s now. How'd that even happen? I still think of myself as like 30. So,
24 is the number that I'm hearing more and more. Like everyone thinks they're 24 until they die.
mm,
I don't know. I feel like I'm 24 still. Callie's face is
Callie.
unconvinced.
Yeah. 24 was a mess. I was found out I was pregnant. It was COVID. I'm gonna pick a different year.
Yeah.
So, Mom, I I don't think of you as a gut. I think of you as very cerebral.
Really?
Yeah.
Different moms, listeners, they had
Yeah.
different moms.
Did you grow up with my mom?
I mean, 4 years later, we broke her down. She's like, I can't trust my gut after this one.
No way. So, to your point, Callie, I definitely can overthink things. Like, I want to know all of the options and even like remote possibilities, and then
Yeah.
be able to choose among those the best course.
Yeah, I've
Mm.
inherited that trait from you, which
Yep.
is probably why I
So,
see it.
so that's the part you resonate with for sure.
Yeah, that's my mom.
Yep. Yep. So, if we're going to go from A to C, we want to know what is B, what is A and a half, what is B and three quarters, and
Yeah.
what are all the possible courses that might even be better than direct, and then we'll decide to progress. Whereas dad would say, I'm at A, I want to be at C, I'm going to start moving in that direction, and then I'll find out what's on the way.
See, but so why I am like, oh yeah, gut makes so much sense. As a youngin, there was just so much wonder and curiosity from you for the world. Like I think that was something you encouraged in us. It's just like the biggest joy for you was, yeah, this is the way it is. And isn't it incredible that we'll never know why? I mean, if we're talking about spirituality, things in
People,
nature that people for
mm,
sure. Yeah,
When we
absolutely.
had a bat in our room the other night, I was literally like under the sheets. Bats eat bugs, they don't eat people. Bats eat bugs, they don't fly in your hair. And that's why they're flying up there.
Da 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 da.
I guess when I think gut, I think like parenting decisions. That's just the stage I'm in, maybe. So when you said, I don't even remember where this
oh,
started, but
yeah, and great clarification, Callie. Gut is not such a good word for me or how I operate, but I think in like dreaming or visioning, I didn't have a specific path or course or where I wanted to land, but maybe essential is a better word than gut, like a sense of what would be good, right? That I would want good things. Yeah, maybe essential.
mm-hmm.
And I'm learning at 58 about myself that up front I do want to take in a lot of input, a lot of data, like look at all the options, make that best decision. But on the backside of things, or the same with my prayer life as it deepens, like it's just an experience of, it's more that essential. Whereas like Dad and Emily they can lead with like just a full experience of where I am right now. And then I'm going to take this apart a little bit. They're kind of almost the
I
reverse.
think because life shows you that if I were always deep in my tactile gut feeling, like if I lived there 24/7 and I never adjusted, it's just
Mm.
not. a realistic way to go about life.
You wouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
Can work for a 18-month-old or 2-year-old in the right
Yes.
settings, right? That you can just immerse.
Yes.
Yeah, not so much an adult though.
Okay, so if we move into, because you do have both, mom, like you have not gut, we're not calling it that. We could call it your spidey senses, because we're all
Mm.
four of your daughters convinced that at crucial points in our lives, you just know
I know,
what's
and she
going
just
on. It's
calls.
so creepy. Yeah, like you just have this
Creepy.
inner
Yeah.
knowing.
Great. So
Well, no,
heartwarming.
I'm just like, literally, how do I haven't voiced this out loud to anyone? Why does she
Oh.
know there's a disturbance in the force right now? It's wild. Anyway, so you do have that, whether it's spiritual, I don't even know what. Should we talk about string theory? I don't know. But there's something there. But you also do have the cerebral piece that Callie was talking about. And I think what's really fascinating to me, you've had four daughters. You have four daughters. We're all pretty different. But I
Mhm.
think part of your legacy, something you've created in this generation, is the ability to contextualize people and situations, which I found
Mm.
out as an adult is incredibly abnormal for anyone to be able to do it. So the fact that you've created this family culture of contextualizing, and I'll give a little context what that is. You were talking about it with Callie when she was asking you, do you love me or daddy more?
I said
Your
us. I wanted to know about all of us.
That's really kind, Callie. You immediately went to, oh, what was the context of her life? What was maybe
Mm.
influencing her to ask that? Who was she hanging out with? What were major themes in her life? Which is an adult navigating the world, navigating relationships, building healthy relationships, being able to say, wow, that person showed up in a certain way, rather than taking it personally. I'm going to try and figure out what is going on in their world. This is a long, long setup for me just wondering when you started doing that and why. And has it been intentional that you cultivate that practice with us?
I don't know. Doesn't everybody contextualize people in their world?
Yeah, I really thought that everyone did until my therapist was like, yeah, so it's really unusual that you approach the world like this. And I said, why? It's how all my sisters do it, and my mom too.
Yeah, so
And
then it
she
makes me
said,
really upset when other
that's
people don't.
me too. I'm like, we're all different. And she's like, that's really unusual that your mother does that.
But why wouldn't we all? And how can you navigate without? Huh. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, is it learned? Is it like
Does
some
dad
people?
do it?
Yeah, and he just I think he does, and he
Well,
just chooses to push boundaries half the
No, I think
time.
he literally didn't know how to do it. I think I've watched him develop
But he
skills
reads people
because
really well.
not always. I think he's chosen to flex
Mm.
that muscle. I think
like
it's
Emily, when he chooses.
I was having this conversation with someone else who knows dad. You're like, he just really doesn't read the room sometimes. And I was like, oh, he always reads the room. I was like, he knows what he's doing. He just chooses to like poke.
no, I think a lot of the time he doesn't read the room. He doesn't. But I think if the stakes were high, he would. It's a
Yes,
choice to not
Yes.
exert the
yes.
energy.
Like professionally, that's a particular skill that he has sought after for.
Yes.
So he is capable, I
Right.
think doesn't instinctively or always see the need.
Correct.
That's funny because when I think of dad and like in a conversation with someone, not like if he's gonna read the room coming in, just a room of all of us. Like, no, I don't think he cares to read the room. But my take is when he's talking to somebody, like in a real conversation with them, he would always like contextualize. And you
Mhm.
don't think so?
Uh, in a real conversation, as in committed, intentional,
Yeah, like a
yes,
one-on-one.
Like he's
Okay.
invested.
he
Yes.
would.
Wait, so I didn't get a satisfactory answer to my question.
I don't recall
Who edits this
learning
show?
or choose.
Spoiler alert, it's Callie.
I don't recall learning or deciding to do that. It just seems like the best way to approach a world full of humans. So why wouldn't you use best practice? Why wouldn't you do the thing that makes sense? So that's what I got for you.
I feel that. I feel that on a gut spiritual level.
What? Why wouldn't you do
Essential.
the smart thing?
It just makes sense. Like, I mean, I just can't imagine living in a world where that's not what everybody does, because that's just all I ever do is contextualize, I feel.
But according to Emily, we do actually live in a world.
Yeah.
I mean, you see
I
people
don't.
not do it, but I always think, oh, they're just not paying attention, or they. I don't know what I don't know what I think.
Watch for it. Now that you have that perspective, watch for it. It's wild. I have no data to back this up, by the way.
But you really like
So,
your therapist, so we're going to take her
yeah,
word.
she's great.
Are you ready? Are you satisfied?
No, but that's okay. We can move on.
What makes you feel valued as a woman?
Huh, such good questions on the Real Mom Hub podcast. What?
Shout out, they seem good.
What makes me feel valued as a woman? Lame, but I'm struggling with the context of that. It's like it's an exterior thing. And I think that I'm more and more integrating my value is just being. Okay, but so that's a weak answer. What
Wait,
makes
hold
me
on.
feel value? So
What is external? What are you talking about being external? The thing we place value on or the concept of womanhood?
know that my feeling valued is dependent on external input or
Ah.
right things happening. That's how I received that question, Callie.
Well, I think that's
But
really valid because there's so much noise on womanhood. There's so much noise and it's complicated.
but
So I
but
think
I
it's
can
really
circle back.
fair.
How about to say, like, I experience my womanhood well when I do make those connections with people, like when I'm able to connect with another human, especially if they're someone in my sphere that I'm responsible for or to, right? I guess, like, being creative, such a great question because I'm not going to pin it to my work or doing. I'm going to attach it more to outcomes of being with people or being in a good moment in a good experience.
Can I add a layer
Mhm.
and ask you to, and if you viscerally say, no, I can't, that's fine. Could you disconnect womanhood from personhood? Because everything you're outlining, I receive as personhood, which is
Yep.
beautiful.
Yeah, I was getting to that same place in my own brain. This isn't distinct from, yeah, it's personhood. So interesting. I feel feminine. I think femininity is beautiful, but I don't think of value in that specific value as a woman way. That's so interesting. I guess I don't identify.
What if I reframe it to dignity? Like, how do you feel you receive dignity as a woman, like feminine dignity? Does that change it for you?
No, and I don't immediately come up with a clear answer for how I receive that. And yet, for our dear listeners who are just getting to know all of us and are only going to have this one podcast encounter with me, like,
No, you'll be back. You'll be a repeat guest.
I think I just am feminine. Like, I think the way that I am in the world matches what people might list as feminine traits, right? But I don't think of intentionally being other than male. Does that help? So, like, for our listeners, I prefer to wear dresses and skirts and even skirts. Like, that's just a comfort place for me. I am okay with not being super physically strong. I would like to be flexible and fit and keep this body working for a long time, but it doesn't anger or madden me that I can't move massive things. I'm very okay with being a small person who is less strong than other people, especially male people. Like, I'm fine with that distinction. Interesting. I do think I tend to be more gentle in speech and in bearing than many people, but I don't think that's necessarily a woman thing. As a world, we might paint that to be. Yeah, I don't know. Good questions. I identify as female or feminine, but I don't have great answers for what makes me feel valued as a woman.
I mean, I just go right to motherhood or sexuality. Like, that's,
Mm.
Okay, so knowing that your kids are, their needs are met, they're fed, they're getting rest, they're getting creative stimulation, like the things that you
yeah.
provide for them.
Yeah, like breastfeeding makes me
Yeah.
feel like I don't know how I would answer that question, but those are the things that I go right to. What about you, Emily?
I'm in an interesting place parsing through all this. I don't have a good answer. I think for me, moving from the West Coast to the Midwest actually feels really different as a woman. I feel very sharp here. Like I feel
Mm.
angular, and I don't feel that when I go back to visit Seattle. And that's outside of my circle of friends, but I don't like feeling sharp or angular here, and I also resent feeling like I ought to change, so I'm not intentionally embarking on that journey. So I guess I'm coming into context with like the Midwest nice woman. And I find it very hard to value that example of femininity, even though I grew up here. So that's one thing I'm holding right now. And so I guess I'm not feeling valued or devalued based on the sharpness, but maybe just like I haven't found my tribe. And then the other thing is, as a mom, I feel softer and more resilient at the same time.
Mhm.
And I do think that is uniquely woman
Mhm.
because my body just did this thing. I can fit into all my old jeans now. I feel strong. I also feel so weak physically because I'm not sleeping as much. I'm working full time and I don't know how to fit a workout in, which is really driving me crazy. So holding multitudes, I guess, makes me feel
Mhm.
really freaking female right now. And I also, I guess the last thing that I will add is, mom, I feel like you're a very different woman than I am. I mean, we're very different people. If I think the older I get, the more
Mhm.
I grow similar to dad's processing system, at least, which
Mhm.
is interesting. So, I mean, I just
Although,
grew up. Oh, go ahead.
well, I've had numerous people comment that we have similar mannerisms, you and I.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as I was growing up,
I'm trying to
um,
think of a single one.
okay.
No, you seem so different. I'm sure
Well,
there are, but Emily, you do. There's just so much dad and Baba in you that when I'm like,
well, and growing up, I think people would say I was a 50-50 split. So I don't know
Mhm.
when I don't know. It's not intentional. Anyways, I grew up feeling like I had and I have just the most exceptional mom. And I also know that I can't model my motherhood after yours because I also can't do that. So I think I do come up against the word value a little bit just because I value your mothering so much and I'm trying to, I guess, evaluate mine and be natural and also know that it's going to look so different.
when you said tribe, that was when I had a visceral feeling of being valued. When I am
Mm.
with other women and I know that I'm contributing to the tribe, that
Mhm.
is such an empowering feeling.
Yeah. And when you said tribe, Emily, same for me, but different in that that clicked it in like, oh, I don't have to explore where I fit or where I find value or how I'm distinctly female because I'm so well situated within my tribe. So I'm a wife and that's very good. I'm a mother and I love being a mother and a mother-in-law and a gammy, which is what the next generation calls me, listeners, is gammy. I have male and female friends. My work situation is even very clearly like I'm a spiritual mother in my work, right? So it's even in my work world, there are men who do particular men things and I'm able to do different things that they cannot because I'm a woman, but I think because I'm situated, I'm not jockeying for who am I or how am I in this season much. A little bit, yes, but a lot less than when I was trying to sort out how can I figure out how to be a mom and then still nurture our marriage and then make friends or be a friend and then what does my professional work look like? Like you all are sorting out and either jockeying or like pruning or trying to grow or graft. Like, yeah. And I think maybe my response to that question is so different because I'm not so much wondering. I'm just living it now.
Yeah, you've worked through so many of
Mhm.
the different hats that femininity or being woman can occupy. And
Yes.
you've also formed and graduated from and also maintained or left behind so many tribes. You've always had tribes and different chapters.
Mhm. I have, yes, and learned so much.
And not in a proud way, but you value yourself. Like you're so secure in that you haven't probably had to think about what makes you feel valued because you just are.
Yeah, I still have daily freakouts that missed something, or like it's easy for fear to whisper or even like paralyze or obstruct me sometimes where I think, did I miss that? Or what am I supposed to be doing? Or, it's not that I'm never uncertain, but it's easier to reject that and say, that's pointless and not good, right? I'm gonna circle back and find my good anchor. So yeah, it gets easier and it gets less, and I am more confident and less searching or fighting for, I guess. Also learned so many beautiful and great things from my mom and have had so much distance to say, this is why and how they're beautiful, and this is how I'm not gonna do those, or I don't need those same self-protective skills that grandma has had to cultivate.
Right.
I can discard a lot of generational things that she had to carry. And so that's a learning process too, that you guys still have to do because you do have to prune some things that were about the way you were mothered that aren't helpful to you or your kids.
Well, and that's what we hope for our kids, right? Like, I don't know. I was talking to Kevin about therapy the other day because it's pretty normal now to do,
Mhm.
but I don't think it was like in your generation. And to us, it's so easy to just say now, I hope that my kids do this better than I did and that they do it better than, like,
Yeah.
but the amazing thing is I look at the way that I was parented and think, gosh, I hope I can do it that well.
You are doing so many things better than we were able to do.
But that is our wish, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's our wish
Yeah,
for the world. But
right? To let go of the junk and the baggage that is harmful and just to run in the freedom of who we truly are and are made to be.
so, how do you feel that you show up for women? Like, or even has there been, a time that you can think of that you show up really well for other women? And on the flip side, is there a time that you can think of when women have showed up really well for you?
Yes, both and. So I think it is natural for me to be aware of what others are struggling with or carrying and to be encouraging and supportive. I think I'm able to not dodge hard things, but acknowledge those with friends or other women. And so I think that is one way to be able to check in and say, I know you're struggling. How's that thing going? What are you learning? How can I pray for you? And I think we have a great charism for hospitality as a whole family, and that's something that's been wonderful to see that transfer generations. I mean, somehow grandma was like that. You all are great at opening your door and coming up with a great meal and having people feel at home in your home. So I think that's a great way too to show up for women, even if it's not necessarily having them here, but just saying, let's be together. Let's just sit over here and be together. That's a good one. Homeschooling was a great way for me to support and share strengths and talents with friends and other women. Yeah, and likewise, there have been people that we've never lived by family. So whenever we had babies, it was friends who brought us food, friends who took the older ones where they needed to go. So we've always had to cultivate and rely on. So part of cultivating a tribe, I think, is that vulnerability of leaning on people and letting them sacrifice for you.
Hmm.
And that's
We
hard.
don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I was
Was
just
that
gonna say
hard for
that.
you?
Mhm.
I mean, and I'm hearing this come up in more and more conversations on podcasts. I see it on social all the time. When we need something, we're more likely to spend money on it. And we're the generation that apparently can't afford or find housing anymore. But it's like you're not gonna rely on your community to bring you food. You're gonna Uber Eats it. I mean, there's a service for
Mhm.
literally everything right now, and
Yeah.
are we're going to order it from our phones. When it was
So,
more common culturally to rely on each other, was it still
yes.
hard, or how did that work?
it wasn't hard. It was like it was a known sacrifice. So how do I explain that?
I will say, while you're thinking that now that I'm jumping into more of a mom crowd and more of a church crowd, it's becoming a lot more normal in my circle, which I'm still in early motherhood, but the past 2 years were really not like that. So now I'm like, oh, wait, this is kind of how I grew up. And I didn't know the world still did this, which is
Mm.
interesting.
So, like, you know that it's adding a layer to your friend if she has your kid also to strap in to her van and go to the place that they're going while you're home with your new baby. So you know that it's a hardship for her, but you also know that she wants to do it, and you know that at the end of the day, her kids are going to behave a little better because you've changed the chemistry. Like, there's just the give and take that I won't, it, huh. It took a lot of trust. I think the hard part is the vulnerability and the trust. When you say, was it hard? It wasn't hard, like sad or frustrating, or I was mad about it, but letting go of that control, saying, I can't do all the things, and I do have to trust someone else to do this thing is is difficult, but so good.
We had some technical difficulties and we're not able to finish this interview, so apologies for the abrupt ending. But don't worry, Mom will be back on the pod full of wisdom and ready to help everybody be their best self and make wise choices. Also, if you would like to see what my toddler was doing while I was editing, I just checked on him and there's mass chaos downstairs. And I'm also just really impressed with what he was able to accomplish himself. There's watercolors stuck to my window, just for a little sneak peek. Follow us on Instagram for a little update of what Charlie O'Rourke was up to.
You've been listening to The Real Mom Hub. Our music is by Naomi O'Leary. You can find us on social at The Real Mom Hub. We're not the authority or even very educated on the medical issues discussed. Do your own research, talk to an expert, make your own decisions, and call us if you learn anything new.
If you like what you hear, follow us on Instagram, or better yet, subscribe to our newsletter. If you don't, that's fine. We can all move on. Our purpose here is community, so if we've resonated with you, tell a friend.
Thanks for listening.